I'm going to introduce our next speaker. Actually, I'm going to let a video introduce him, and he is fantastic at what he does. We're going to shift gears a little bit, go down a little bit of a marketing kind of like journey. How many of you guys feel like that's an area you could probably use a little bit of help in? Some marketing, some SEO, some digital. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, let's go ahead and play the video, and I'll get him up here.
Hello, Power Room members and guests. I would like to introduce the Doctor of SEO, Brett Lane from SEO Outsourcing. Today he's going to be discussing how to use artificial intelligence to create various forms of content for your business. Please put your hands together and welcome Brett to the stage.
It's awesome to be here with you guys today. I wanted to open up with just a usage of technology. I've been looking at artificial intelligence for the last probably 3 months, pretty heavily looking at how do you create content for websites. There's a couple things changing now in terms of my industry as it relates to SEO. So I'm a huge believer that you can use artificial intelligence if you use it correctly, and as long as you have a human element that's interacting with the intelligence, then you can create good content that you can use across the internet. Now, right now there's a few changes that are taking place specifically with Google in terms of how you use and how you create content. If you create it in an automated fashion, you could get yourself lower rankings if you do it incorrectly. But as I mentioned earlier, if you use tech in a way that is taking that human element into place, I really believe that will take your content game to a much higher level. Here's a QR code. I want you guys to not have to worry about taking notes and going crazy. This will get you access to my contact information. I will get you guys access direct to the slides. So what we're going to be talking about is Google's helpful content update. This actually just came into play and was finished as of just a few days ago. And there's a lot of components to that. I'll go into that here shortly. We're going to be looking at repurposing content. Anybody in this room, if you have a website, you need to be generating content to feed that 800-pound gorilla, which is Google. You have to do it regardless of what industry you're in. So we're also going to be talking about text-based content, audio content, and video content. So the tools that I'm going to give you access to are not that expensive. You can use them regardless of what you're doing. If you're creating content in terms of articles, anything with social media, you can use artificial intelligence to help you throughout that process. I would suggest not using it wholeheartedly in and of itself, but if you use it and you massage what it creates for you, it'll take your content game to a whole new level. And then lastly, I want to look at creating some content synergy by being able to utilize a variety of those tools. So this last content update that Google just reeled out is really in relation to getting people to create content that's better, that is more usable, that's more user-friendly. So you want to focus on people. You don't want to focus on search engines. People in my industry for the last X number of years have been creating content for that purpose. Try to feed the machine. Focus on keywords. Focus on content length. My team has analyzed different bits of content that you can use. What's the specific word number that you have to use to get rankings very quickly? Google is saying, hey, we want you to focus on answering questions, solving problems, getting customers to be able to find your information and point them in a new direction versus just trying to feed that machine. So you also have to really rely on your expertise in your industry. Google knows if you do not have expertise. They're going to look at what you're saying on the internet. They're going to look at how much content you've created. They're going to look at, are you adding value to what people are seeing? And that's going to give you a lot more credibility. And then the last piece is just being able to make sure that you're answering those questions. You're helping people solve problems. In terms of repurposing content, you can use this content all over the internet, whether you're looking at video, descriptions, title tags, anything with Facebook, looking at video transcriptions. There's a whole slew of things that you can do to be able to get more traction with your specific content. These two tools are my absolute favorite tools as of this last 6 months. The reason I say that is in 2020, there was some AI technology that came out that is powering all of the new tools that are related to content creation. The goal with the AI is to be able to create content not by scraping the internet and just rewriting it. It's totally different. You can tweak these tools, and the content that will be created is completely unique. You can push it through Copyscape. You will find 0% Copyscape issues with this kind of content. The difference between the two tools, Copymatic is a tool that has a lot more tools within it. So I'm going to show you guys here in just a couple seconds some of the components with that. Content Bot is also a very good tool, but it's for people who are not needing a ton of tools. Like if you're looking at creating content in terms of articles, blog posts, things of that nature, then I would recommend Content Bot. Price-wise, very inexpensive, between $29 and $49. The main thing that you're going to run into with these kinds of tools is how many words they let you create on a monthly basis. Copymatic tends to give you a little bit more in terms of the number of words that you can use, but then you have to pay, and it's a very nominal fee to have their Copyscape tool integrated. It's like $10 per 50,000 words that you monitor. So when you look at pricing, it's very similar to Content Bot. As you can see, Content Bot, same, pretty close in terms of pricing, $29 to $99. Depends on what your content needs are. I always tell people, test each solution. You know, you can go and run a trial. It's going to cost you $20, $29 per month. You run it for a month. You see how good the tool is. I've tested these tools back to back to see which ones create content easier. In my opinion, Content Bot, the integration and the flow is a lot easier. But when you look at Copymatic, you can create content. I created a piece of content that was 1,700 words, completely unique. It took me 15 minutes. It took me more time to edit and go through and make sure that that content made sense and was structurally sound than it did to actually create the content. So I'm going to show you a couple different examples of the kinds of things that you can use, do with these programs. Anything from blog titles, blog intros, outlines. They have a really good article generator, blog post writer. Typically what you're going to see between the article generator and the blog post is the way that the content is written. Usually articles are a little bit longer form content. Blog posts are a little shorter. They usually have things that are called listicles, where you can go in and create lists and then drop the answer down, the content down specifically from those lists. Also, you can look at things from an on-site SEO standpoint, title tags, description tags. You can look at generating keyword ideas. Some of these tools will also integrate with other tools like SEMrush, which is going to give you good keyword information about how people are searching, what are they searching for, at what frequency, and where are they searching for in the United States. In terms of looking at it from a paid search standpoint, you can use it to write information related to your ads. If you just get brain fog and you cannot figure out, or you have a team, these kinds of tools can help your team dramatically push their output. That's what I was telling you earlier. Use the human aspect and integrate them in with the tech. You'll get twice as much work done with the people that you have managing those programs. If you start looking at things related to videos, cold emails, follow-up email sequences, press releases, there's so many benefits to utilizing AI, but the main thing is just making sure that anything it gives you, you need to massage it. You need to make sure that whatever that content is, it's good for your users and you're not creating content for the sake of creating content. Content Bot, another really good tool. They claim to be the future of writing. They do a few of the similar things that Copymatic does, minus they have a smaller number of tools that you can use. So they allow you to write different kinds of content. Some content is short form. Usually that's articles that are less than 1,000 words. Long form articles are typically between 1,000 and 2,000 words. Between the two tools, Copymatic lets you write larger pieces. Every time you create a piece of content, it's usually about 200 words per snippet. So you have to come up with and figure out who's searching the internet, what kinds of questions are they asking, and you can figure this out really quickly. You can type any keyword into Google, and it'll say also search for. You can see all those suggestions of what people are asking. You could take every single one of those keywords, put it into the content, into the program, and it'll create snippets of content for every single question that consumers are asking. So now you're giving Google specifically the food that it's looking for to help your website rank. So as I mentioned earlier, long form, short form, it's a very good tool. to be able to write different types of content. Blog content is a little different because that content is informing and it's engaging a little bit more than normal article content on your website. So the AI on both of these, since it's being pulled from the same engine, creates content based on user intent as well. You can tell these programs, hey, I want to be serious, I want to be funny, I want to have it be informative. Also, another really cool thing is a rephraser. So if you have old content on your site that's been sitting there for 5-10 years, you can take this content, stick it into the machine, and it'll rephrase everything and make it completely unique. And it's your words. So you don't necessarily have to use the tools to just come up with new content. You can take your existing and you can make it fit. You can even, I've seen some of our clients come in and we've needed to add an extra 500 words, 1,000, 200 or 300 words. We'll go through every single page of their site, run it through the rephraser. Now you have the same exact messaging, your speak, and the AI will write as if it was writing your speak. It's absolutely insane. And then it also has a plagiarism checker. With Content Bot, it's included with the subscription instead of having to pay for it every 50,000 words like you would with the other program. But when you look at the pricing between the two programs, they're very, very similar in terms of cost. It just depends on how many words they let you use on a monthly basis, which is really one of the major differences. This is one of my absolute favorite components to Content Bot. If you want to create content and have it done every single month, and you have a set of topics that you're going to write about, you can go in, and both of these tools have WordPress plugins. So if you have a WordPress blog, you can use this tool to come up with content ideas, and you're going to get a piece of content within the first 15 minutes the first time you do it. Then you're going to get content delivered to you every 2 to 3 days. That's going to be based on what topics you feed the machine. Whether it be between 600 and 1,300 words. Obviously, I wouldn't have anything get posted on its own. I would have it get pushed into your site and have it be put into a queue so that you can have humans look over and make sure that everything's on point before it gets published to your site. This is my absolute favorite tool right now. This is the tool that I used at 3:30 this morning. I put together that video. I was sitting in the hotel room. I was excited as hell to come out here and speak to you guys. I woke up at 3:15, was like, you know what? I want to create a video for you guys. I want to look at this and use this technology. So I got my phone, recorded myself speaking, took it, changed the file, put it into their tool. You have the ability to create audio as well as videos. It's insane the kind of content you can create. I have a friend at another mastermind who does interviews with people, and he has a lot of articles on his site, and he said, hey, can you do anything creative? I said, oh, hell yeah, I can. Let's take the content from your site. We did he did like a little review of an actress. So we took her, Jessica Alba. We put a picture of her with his brand, and I had a little talking head. And I know when you look at the person who is speaking, if they're huge on the screen, it's easier to tell that their mouth is still moving, but you can tell that it's AI driven. Now, if you do any kind of training or you have content, you're going to put that talking head in the bottom, right or left side or top, where it's a lot smaller. It's going to take away a lot of the focus on that person's mouth. So if you have them going through trainings, if you're doing things in real estate or whatever industry you're doing, if you are training people or informing consumers, you can use this type of technology. It's very inexpensive. It's less than $200 a month. The reason it's my favorite is there's other programs that are very similar to this, except for they only let you create like 5 or 10 videos a month. I mean, I always go to, is the technology better? And then also, how much does it cost for me to use that technology? Because our company works with over 150 customers every single month. And I got people who are literally like on the $500 a month up to $10,000 plus a month in spend. And the reason I tell you that is whenever I look to creating content for clients, I'm always trying to find, how do I help the little guys get more content? Because they sure as hell don't want to create it. They don't have time. They're running their businesses. So how do we give them a tool like this where they can go in and create that content very easily? In terms of the text to voice, this technology is insane. You literally can go take content from your website, put it into this tool, and in 3 steps, you can go in and have that content be read with a human voice. And when it spits out that content initially, it's not perfect. What I've noticed is you have to go in and add tweaks, commas, extra punctuation, put things into quotation marks, make things bold, so the technology can see that you're trying to add specific emphasis to different parts. Now, when you do that and you add longer pauses in between when they're speaking and you speed up the tempo of them talking, what you notice is the content sound, or the text, when it's being spoken into word, it sounds amazing. I've been looking at this technology for 7 years, and it's come a long way from sounding like a robot is talking to you versus a human being who's literally talking to you right in front of your face. So choosing your voice, adding your text, and hitting click, depending on the amount of content that you have, is how long it takes for the AI to process it. If you're taking content that is about 1,000 words, it's probably going to take about 10 minutes for it to process that. And as you put in more content, it takes a little bit longer for it to process it. Very simplistic model on the back end. You get to look at the voices. You get to choose based on age. You can choose between male or female. You can choose between what parts of the world they're from. And I've noticed that some templates are a little easier than others, so you always want to go in and make sure that you're previewing everything that you hear, because you don't want it to sound robotic. But I believe by adding in those different components where I was talking about pausing things, speeding some things up, it's going to make it sound a whole lot better. In terms of the video creation, 5 steps. I love these kinds of tools because they're creating things called humitars, where they're taking people's faces and they have them say a whole bunch of words. Now, if you have a ton of content on your site, you're doing a ton of training, or let's say you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn and you want to have a different video for every single person, you can go to this content, choose your spokesperson who's going to represent your brand. You're going to be able to choose their voice. You look at adding in your script, and you can basically change out the name on that content at the very beginning. Hello, Karen. Hello, Michael. Hello, Jim. And you can select your background to be branded, and then you hit create. And now you have a video for every single person who you're trying to target. And if you're doing smaller videos for your potential customers, they're probably going to take about, I'd say, 2 to 3 minutes to process. So now you can do 10 times the work, and you don't have to do anything from a video editing standpoint. Can you imagine what kind of cost savings you're going to get by being able to utilize this kind of technology versus handing that content over to a person to go in and edit who you're paying between $35 and $75 an hour? The output is absolutely insane. This tool will allow you to go back in, choose a specific image, choose your humitar. You get to place where they're going to be within that technology, within that screen. And then the cool part is you can either upload your voice, which is what I did. I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a woman with my voice introduce myself. I thought that was pretty badass. My wife, I sent this to her this morning. She's like, why is there a woman? Why is there a man's? I said, that's my voice, honey. I said, I thought it would be interesting to see how you can use this technology to represent your brand in a variety of ways. You also, beneath where it says video script, you can take content. They give you 1,000 characters. What I found with this technology, if you take a piece of content, let's say it's 2,000 words. If you strip it down to about 500 words per piece of content, what you'll need to do is put that 500 words into the script. You save it. You create what they call as another slide. Then you go back in and you just copy the image, the actor, everything real quick, and then you put another 500 words. You can do this tons and tons and tons of times. What you then do is you take the technology and you merge everything together. The reason you do that is, for whatever reason with the tech, when you try to put too much into the machine, things start to sound weird. It doesn't work as effectively as it should. So if you're creating these smaller snippets of content and you're creating more and more and more slides, what winds up happening is you take 2,000 words and you turn that 2,000 words into, let's say, a 5-minute, 7-minute, 8-minute video. You're literally able to have it sound way better than the way that it did previously. So I do want to emphasize too, one of the reasons why I feel Being in this industry for almost 20 years in March of next year, I've seen so many changes take place in relation to Google, how they process things. I truly believe the reason why they came up with their helpful content update is because of this technology. Because it is hard as hell to figure out if it's real, if it was created by you, by you, by you. Google's having a very hard time because the technology is so amazing. And you can take this clay. You just give the technology a few bits and pieces about what you're writing about, what your intent is, how you want to reach your customers, and you set that sucker into motion, it's going to create some amazing content for you. And I just started seeing a correlation between these tools coming out 6 months ago, and I started researching more. I've already looked at probably 15 tools in the last year to make sure we find the ones that are going to serve our customers best. The more tools that came to market when that AI engine was created in 2020, I think Google is looking at that from the standpoint of some people in my industry who choose to use what I call the dark side and create, they do things that they shouldn't. They screw it up for the rest of us. They'll take this kind of technology and they will go in and create so much information. They'll flood the markets with content for the sake of creating content, not for adding value. And the more tools that I saw, the more I started hearing about changes with Google. If you go back to what I started doing 20 years ago, Google was created, it was called Backrub. The whole point of Google was connecting resources. So like, let's say you're Yale, you're Cambridge, you're Harvard, you're Stanford. They were taking resources between your college and your college and your college and your college, and they were connecting them so that you could share data much easier. So there's always going to be a link building component to their algorithm, in my opinion. Getting people on the internet to link to your content, I believe that's always going to be there because you have to be able to show Google that you're getting a democratic vote of confidence for your website. When somebody goes out of their way to link to your website to say you're an expert and they're giving you credit for that, there's a lot of power behind that. The other piece is making sure that you have really good content. I started creating content years ago where we thought about, hey, how do we solve problems for consumers? How do we help drive them in a direction? Even if we cannot give them what we feel like we can give them, like we can't meet every single person's need who comes to our website. But if you have a resource for them that can also answer their questions, link to it. Don't be stingy with your link juice. Like, too many people worry about, if I link out, how much authority am I lose? Don't even think like that. As long as you think about the end customer, giving them what they need, helping them get those problems solved. At the end of the day, you're always going to be doing what you need with Google. The reason I say this is I've weathered hundreds of storms. Everybody talks about, algorithmic changes. I've been re-engineering Google for almost 2 decades, and what I've seen is they make hundreds of changes a week. They used to be haters, and they wouldn't tell guys like me, hey, something's coming. We had to monitor the internet, hundreds and thousands of keywords to see where the fluctuations were taking place within search. And then it's like, oh, there's a quake. I'm seeing things take place. We're starting to see keyword rankings drop. Things are getting crazy. Now Google comes out and says, hey, we have an update coming. It's in relation to XYZ. It's interesting because now they're giving you more information, but what they're now saying is, hey, there's this thing that's coming down the pike, but there's nothing you can do about it. And then they always go back to the whole build it and they will come montage, which I think is garbage. If you have a business, if you have a rental property, or you build it, but you don't market it, you don't tell anybody about that business, who the hell cares? Nobody's going to come. That's what Google looks at, those links. When you create something and you get this ecosphere of places linking to your resources. I do believe if you give them a reason to link to you because you're creating good content, there can be people who have an altruistic sense about them who will link to it because it's just really good content. So they just feel the propensity to link to you. That probably exists about maybe 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, if you were to look at their guidelines, they would say anybody in my position is going against their guidelines. Simply because I have the skill set to not manipulate, but to massage. I like to give Google a massage every month for my clients. Massaging those little things to be able to get them to take notice. It's like saying, oh, if you go out and you want to date, you want to make your wife happy, you just go out, you're looking all nasty, but I got ready, I'm here, I look good, versus getting yourself cleaned up and getting Google to take notice of who you are with your content. So I do believe that if you create good content, you are going to give Google spiders more of a reason to visit your page and to engage with you. So I've seen that to be true many, many years. Always think of your customers, answer their questions. Don't create anything specifically for Google. Create it for your end users. Figure out how they're searching, where they're searching. One of the tools I didn't mention, Answer the Public, is a really good tool to see who's searching. Literally, answerthepublic.com. You could go there. Any industry, any niche, type in one little query, like something about, real estate for dummies or whatever. It'll come back in literally within about 30 seconds. It'll give you 100 to 200 questions of what consumers are asking on the internet this month versus next and the next. So you can get a good glimpse of how they're searching, what they're searching for, how you create that content, how are you going to engage with those consumers. And if you keep those things in mind, you're always going to be ahead of the game. You're never going to have to worry. Like me, 15 years ago, I was sweating bullets. This was like when I had way more hair on my head. I was sweating bullets thinking about every new algorithm change. And it used to drive me freaking nuts. But as soon as I decided to build things for customers and not search engines, I was able to weather every single storm that came through hundreds, if not thousands, of algorithm updates because I was doing it right. But at the same time, I know a lot about the dark SEO. Black hat SEO. The reason I know that is I want to know how to kick my competitors in the ass when they're doing things that they shouldn't do. I want to do what I have to do, not do the same tactics, but no, hey, if these people are using this technology and they're doing something in that fashion, how do I compete? How do I take it to the edge? So for years, what I do is I look at my own assets. I don't do any of this for my clients. I look at my own assets and say, how are people searching? Can we create a website? Can we test it? Can we see what are those initial triggers that gets Google to do something? And right now I'm testing content with AI. I've tested content where it is brand new content, 100% unique, versus taking content from 10 sources that weren't copy escape passed, putting it all together, jumbling it up to where that stuff, it doesn't even make sense when you read it. And you push it out to the internet. I've seen the same content that was unique rank well, and the content that was not unique didn't rank well because Google was looking at the different components where that content is and how the sentence structure is set up. So you can get away with doing things like that, but typically what winds up happening is you get kicked right in the rear end because Google will notice it. And it might have taken you 5, 10, 15 years to build up an association between who you are as an authority and who Google depicts you on as an authority. You don't want to do anything stupid and have all that authority disappear overnight. I've seen it happen. When I was at an agency years ago, I had seen BMW. They did something very stupid, made a very small change where they were trying to put content in the background, the same text. It was as the background. White text talking about the cars. They only literally did that for about 6 days because Google found out about it, kicked them right in the ass. Their rankings tanked all to hell. And then since it was such a big brand and they were spending so much money with Google within their AdWords, they were able to have one of the reps say, hey, you need to get this stuff changed really quickly because your rankings aren't going anywhere. They changed it. Magically, the rankings came back. So another thing that I will tell you about SEO, some people say that there is a separation between church and state, paid advertising and organic. I don't think it's as clear-cut as everybody says it is. And the reason I say that is Google looks at your site. It looks at who is interacting with your site. At what rate? Are they staying on your pages? Are they going from one page to the next? Are they converting with your site? And for them to collect that data, they have to do tests to see how well you're, we're going to give these people new rankings. We're going to check to see who is responding in different fashions. Well, if you're paying Google a good amount of money to have people go to your pages, you're giving Google the data that it needs to say your website is worth them ranking. So keep that in mind. I don't think there is a separation completely. They'll tell you that because 95% of their revenue is created by their ads. So I have seen specific instances where people have been able to get, they spend a lot of money, they do the testing, all of a sudden now they're dropping 5,000, 10,000 new visitors at their site on every single month. And then within 30, 60, 90, 100 days, rankings just start going up. It's pretty amazing. So thank you so much for your time today. I love geeking out on this stuff. I can talk about this stuff for like hours. I wanted to give you guys 3 tools. The last time I did a presentation on AI, I had like tools coming out of my rear end, and everybody's like fucking getting crazy trying to like take pictures. That's why I said, sit back, click this. I'll get you access to the slides literally less than 24 hours. It's my pleasure speaking with you guys. Thank you so much for having me.